is the FirmMaths 101 event, and it's going to be on Quest.io. So this is probably for the people who are going into year 12 trying to study FirmMaths or have chosen FirmMaths. So let's get started. So the contents for today's event will be why should you choose FirmMaths? That's the most important one. Who would benefit from FirmMaths? What topics are there in FirmMaths? And there will be a moment where I try to teach you complex numbers. But be expected that you're probably not going to get it, but it's going to be very basic examples. And there's going to be some top tips from students who did FirmMaths and on how to excel in FirmMaths. Also, the best resources for FirmMaths, we obviously got to plug in Quest.io because that's the best website ever. And we have a Q&A panel with me, Amir, Taib, and Alap. I don't think he's on, but I'll get him to be on soon. Anyways, let's get started. So what is FirmMaths? So some of you might not know, but FirmMaths is a subject which both broadens and deepens the mathematics covered in A-level maths. It also adds in some of the content that is not covered in A-level maths, such as matrices and complex numbers and various others. FirmMaths is sometimes taken alongside an AS or A-level in maths. Often that is in a state school where you do FirmMaths and maths A-level at the same time, where you have probably a big maths class and a smaller FirmMaths class where you learn FirmMaths. But there are some schools, such as private schools and grammar schools, where you might do A-level maths in 1 year. So you covered the first year and the second year within a year, and you either sit an exam in the summer of year 12 or you sit an exam in the summer of year 13. Then you basically speed run this curriculum for FirmMaths in year 13, and you sit a year 13 test. You sit the FirmMaths test in year 13. So what makes FirmMaths hard? You cover various advanced topics which you have no prior foundation in, such as matrices, complex numbers, and many others. There are differential equations, calculus, a lot of content that you've never seen in GCSE maths, neither maybe in A-level maths. Pure maths is more abstract compared to GCSE maths, in terms that there are some concepts which you can't imagine to apply the concept in the real world, such as complex numbers, where it has some importance in electricity and stuff like that. And there are some modules, such as mechanics, which forces you to think about the real world in order to apply to the exam questions. So who should take FirmMaths? Anyone who's interested in reading maths at university. FirmMaths will equip vital skills which will allow you to excel at universities and during the application process. And anyone who's planning to study engineering, physics, computer science, or anything maths related. If you enjoy anything that might challenge you in mathematics, because A-level maths, some people might say that it's quite easy compared to FirmMaths, but that depends on the difficulty. And if you want to do Olympiads such as UKMT Senior Maths Challenge and DMO, which has some content for problem solving that might be covered in FirmMaths, and it will just help you, because So where could FirmMaths take me? University. Maths underpins various different STEM subjects such as physics, engineering, as I mentioned before. Thus, having an in-depth knowledge of high-level maths will put you in advantage in your university application, and you'll be ahead of your peers during university. FirmMaths or high-level maths helps a lot for doing Olympiads such as UKMT, SMC, DMO, British Physics Olympiad, and BIO. Olympiad is a great place to improve your credentials on the subject that you love, with questions that you never see in your A-level subjects, and it looks decent on your personal statement. It also helps you in admission tests. Oxford and a few other universities offer admission tests which test you on your mathematical ability, and having knowledge in FirmMaths can have a great advantage. Exams such as DEP, MAT, PAT, TIMUA, ENGA, and NSAA all test on your knowledge in maths. DEP want you to have knowledge in firm maths, and it's often given as an offer to Cambridge Maths and Imperial Computer Science Office and some other maths degrees. So here are some stats which shows that I'm not lying about how great firm maths is, because if you want to study at Cambridge, for a mathematical degree such as maths, you will see that almost 99% of the offer holders took firm maths A level and did decent in it. Also, you can see for computer science, almost 96% of the offer holders took firm maths A level, which is quite surprising if you think about it, because you always think that computer science is the coding, but it's not. There's a lot of maths and theory behind it, which requires some of the content in firm maths, and there will be some high level maths that you learn in computer science. We also have engineering, which is not that surprising because you need a lot of maths for that, where 95% of the offer holders took firm maths A level. Also, natural sciences, the physical strand, I think, almost 90% of the offer holders took firm maths A level, which is quite surprising, but you're doing chemistry and physics, so it's not that surprising. These stats are quite similar to different universities for top ranked ones. So Imperial, Warwick, Bath, and LSE. LSE actually requires you to have firm maths for economics and maths. So in economics, surprisingly, you expect that to be theory-based, but there are two different types of economics degrees. There's sciences, bachelor's of sciences, and the bachelor's of arts. Bachelor's of sciences is a lot of maths. There was a person who said to me that LSE economics has more maths than the LSE maths degree, which is really surprising. Anyways, next slide. So what topics are there in firm maths? This might seem really just weird to see, but we cover a lot in the span of 2 years compared to GCSE. So in year one, this is in terms for AQA, by the way. So it might differ between the 3 examples that can give you a qualification for firm maths, which is AQA, Edexcel, and OCR. So for pure, in AQA, you learn complex numbers, matrices and vectors, polar coordinates, calculus, hyperbolic functions, differential equations, and further algebra. Complex numbers, matrices, and vectors and polar coordinates are often taught in first year, but they are expanded on in the second year. So it is essential that you have a good foundation in those topics for the second year. And so then we have, let me just explain something, because Mr. Monster is explaining it on the Discord, but in the exam boards, you're required to take pure. That might be called for pure 1 or just pure in general. And then you have the choice of choosing 2 optional modules, which are either mechanics, discrete, or stats. So you can do mechanics and discrete, or you can do mechanics and stats, or you can do discrete and stats. And most of the time, the school decides it. So mechanics, you do dimensional analysis, which is quite interesting because you get to prove whether equations actually do follow another equation and if they're dimensionally correct. You also do momentum and collisions, which is quite fun. It's actually not that fun, it's quite hard. But once you get into the routine of getting a good understanding of it, it gets quite repetitive. But but basically we work out the velocity or the mass of 2 objects colliding, or 1 object colliding a fixed object such as a wall, and try to work out the velocity and stuff like that. We also do circular motion, center of mass and motions, work, energy and power. I think first year you do dimensional analysis, momentum and collisions, center of mass and motions, and work, energy and power. Circular motion is no. You do center of mass and motion in second year. So there's also another module called discrete math, which is quite useful if you want to study either discrete maths in university or computer science in university. Graph network is a huge part of computer science, and you learn that in further maths, but it's really fun. Critical path analysis as well, but that's kind of boring. Game theory is quite fun. It's quite useful for if you want to study economics. Some of the theories are based on game theory. You also have binary operations, which is probably one of my favorite topic in further maths, as you learn number theory a bit, which allows you to calculate different stuff for huge numbers and stuff like that. And it's really useful for computer science. You also do stats. I personally don't do stats as a module. I just do mechanics and discrete. But I know you do discrete random variables, Poisson distribution. I pronounced that wrong. I'm sorry. Chi-square test, continuous random variables, exponential distribution, and confidence intervals. Most of these topics are standardized between all the examples, so you're probably going to get taught something similar in Edexcel and OCR, but the order of how it's taught, it will change. All right, next slide. The structure of papers in A2A Further Maths A-Level. So in A-Level, you are given 3 papers. So one of them is a written exam, which is 2 hours long. So you do 2 papers, which are pure only. They are 2 hours long each, and they represent about 33% of your A-Level, each paper, and they cover all the topics shown here, all these topics, and yeah, they're quite important. So make sure to have your knowledge in pure quite up to scratch. But then we have paper 3, which is where you do your papers in the optional modules, such as stats and mechanics, stats and discrete, or discrete and mechanics. I think it's for Edexcel, it might be 4 papers. I might be wrong on that, but I think they sit each of the modules separately. But it might be 3. Also, this is talking about the second year A-Level. In the first year, you do 2 papers for A2A. You do 1 long pure one, and then you do paper 2. 1 second, sorry. Okay, yeah. Okay, so for paper 2, you do the optional module. Oh no, it's a booklet, I think. It's 2 booklets that you do. Anyways, next slide. So time to question you guys and get the activity up on the Discord channel. So what are the solutions of x squared plus 1 equals 0? This is not as easy as you guys think. You get the answer, well done. Okay, well done. Okay, let's try to, alright, someone else do it. I'll give you guys 1 minute. Oh yeah. Okay. I think that's enough time because no one's typing on the chat, so let's explain how to do this. So, in complex numbers, you basically learn that square root minus 1 can't be computed usually on real calculations. So you set square root minus 1 to imaginary number. So square root minus 1 equals I. That's where you might have seen it on the Discord chat, where someone said x equals I. That's one of the solutions, but let's do it. So in order to solve this, we might use the conventional method where we move the 1 to the other side and try to square root it. Then we get 2 solutions. But let's try it. Let's try it now. So we move the plus 1 to the other side. So that means it's x squared equals minus 1. And then what we do is we try to square root the x squared. But basically, when we square root the x squared, we get x equals plus or minus square root minus 1. As I said before, square root minus 1 is I. So basically, what we do is, there's two ways that we can work it out. We can just move, we basically move the factor of minus 1, square root of minus 1, outside the real one. So let's do it again here. So we get x equals plus or minus square root 1, square root minus 1. So that means we just get x equals plus or minus 1, square root minus 1, which is also equal to x equals plus or minus 1i, or I. And that is the two solutions. Do you guys get that? Say yes on the chat, please. You do. Okay, that's great to hear. Okay. The channel might be hidden, by the way, because like Discord did some weird stuff. So you have to click on you have to click on channels on roles, and then from there you have to choose the channel. Man, why does Discord have to be this freaky? Okay, let's just carry this on. If you can, okay. No, there doesn't have to be a 1 before the I. It's just because I forgot to remove that. It's usually plus or minus I. I'm just being lazy. Okay, next question. Actually, you know what? I actually did it. Next question. This is a bit harder question, but we can do this. Similarly, but we have to do completing the square, which you guys did in GCSE Maths. So, can you guys get the solutions in like a minute or so? If not, that's fine. Okay. Okay, it's fine, because they haven't learned it, so it's probably hard. But okay, let's do this. So, similarly to what we did before, we're going to move the 5 to the other side, so we get, yeah, you're right. We get x squared minus 4x equals minus 5. Now, this is the fun part, is where we factor out the x squared minus 4x into a square, which becomes x minus 2 squared. But then we realize there's a nasty plus 4 that we have. So what we're going to do, we're going to subtract the minus 4 from the square, and we're going to then add it to the minus 5, which means it's x minus 2 squared equals minus 1. And then what we do, we square root both sides. So x minus 2 squared square root equals square root minus 1. And we know square root minus 1 equals 5. So then x minus 2 equals plus or minus square root minus I. And then x equals 2 plus or minus square root minus 1. I mean 1, not I. My bad. And then we get x equals 2 plus or minus I, which is the solution. Did you guys get that? Okay, great to know. Thank you. Okay, so this is probably, yeah, well done. Proud of you guys. Okay. So next slide. So how can you excel in fair maths, right? Everyone has a different way of learning. My way is probably doing a ton of questions, but others might just have different methods to learn. But here are some tips that from FM students who excelled in fair maths. Having a strong foundation in the topics is essential before applying your knowledge in the exam questions. In order to have a strong foundation on knowledge, I watched a ton of YouTubers such as TL Maths, Bison Maths, and others such as Black Pen, Red Pen. And with that, I was able to apply the knowledge I learned from those videos into textbook questions. And then once I was confident with the textbook questions, I started doing exam questions, which were questions from exam papers, which were questions from exam papers that was given a few years back. And once I was confident with that, I would do these end of topic tests that is linked on one of the quests in Questa that I'll show you guys later. But from that, I was able to gain a good foundation in those concepts. Another tip that one of my friends said is that if you don't understand something, don't stress out because it's not the end of the world. You're gonna learn that topic once, and you're gonna do well in it. And basically, what he used to do is that he used to just forget about the concept and try to learn it again in a week's time. And he realized that it was a good way to remember all the stuff that he might have forgotten. Because he might have forgotten the stuff that was taught in class, and just revisiting the concept just helped a lot. Also, another tip was that if you were stuck with a pure question, just use Wolfram Alpha during your homeworks and classwork. Don't do it during tests. You're going to get in trouble and disqualified 100%. But yeah, and so yeah, let's go back. So I think Levi's comment stood out most for me because last year November I kind of got 11 out of 58 in my first test. That was a huge blow to my ego because I thought, I failed in the test, but I didn't. I messed up and got 11 out of 58, and I realized that I had a lot to learn. Number one is that I thought I had enough knowledge, but I realized that how I was revising GCSE was not enough for Fair Maths. So, well, I mean, it would have been enough for Fair Maths. I just did not dedicate enough time to revise for Fair Maths. This is some of the topics were like out of my mind. So it's fine if you mess up in the first test or the second test or in the third test, but you can always get back to 88% in Fair Maths because you just gotta grind it out and use Questa. Anyways, here's the best resources that I found whilst revising for Fair Maths. First one is Isaac Physics. I realized recently how goated the resources is. It's incredible. You learn so much problem solving stuff that it's never shown in the textbooks that you use in Fair Maths, and it prepares you for physics stuff. So if you're planning to apply for a physics degree, I suggest you start with Isaac Physics as soon as possible because it's really good. And the second resources that I found that was really good is Python Maths. Python Maths is probably the greatest channel that I've ever watched because he explained all the concepts that I didn't get or missed out in Fair Maths or in Maths actually. And he has a huge bank of questions and notes which just helped a lot when retaining the knowledge. We also got PMT, Physics, Maths and Tutor. I think everyone knows this, where it has almost all the question banks that you want. It has the past papers, it has the solutions, and it has all the questions that you want. We also got Questa, which was linked on the Discord. But if I click on here, you can see. Give it a second. Why did it go to the? I think this is the wrong one. Wait. Anyways, it's here. Yeah, number 5 is great. But anyways, here. So this was curated by another person called GCSE Potential, and they linked a ton of good resources. I'll be adding a ton more very soon, and Mr. Monster will definitely do that as well. So if you want to check what A-level for Pure 2 is, guys, you can always click on this playlist and give it a second. And you can Okay, never mind, that didn't work. Hey, I think Quest is kind of broken. This wait. Okay, yeah, fair enough. Yep, yep, yep. Okay, this is not great of me. Anyways, you can access all the firm math content that you want, and it's just a good resource to use. I wish I knew more about this at the start of year 12. Then I definitely wouldn't have got 11 out of 58 on my exam. But yeah, so basically you just click on the link that was sent on the Discord, and you can access all the resources. So we also have some of the resources that I mentioned on in the previous slide. This is taking ages. Okay, previous slide. So if you look here, you have access to TL Math, Maths Math, Physics, and Math Tutor. Maths Math is really good to use, so make sure to start using that soon. We also got Button Math, As It Physics, A-Level Math Revision, mathshelper.co.uk, which is similar to A-Level Math Revision, and My Math Cloud, which has basically everything. It also has the unit test that I talked about before. So let's go back. So it's time for the Q&A. So we have myself, Taib, and Allah Pandis. Did I pronounce your names right? But okay. If you guys have any questions, pop it on the Discord, either in the general or in the A-Level Maths chat. Come on. Yeah. Uh, it is really good for polar coordinates and some of the stats that you do in maths. So it's a good investment, but if you can't afford it, it's fine. You can always survive with the FX calculator. No, you don't need CG50. It's good for FM, yeah, but some of the actually it's quite good. I remember in one of the tests, it asked me to compute one of the matrices to the power 2022, and the CG50 did that easily, which is quite funny because I was not meant to do that. Uh, for me, it's probably one of the mechanics that we did. So let me go back to the previous slide. Yeah, further vectors was bloody hard, but yeah. So I think complex numbers when being introduced felt hard, but it wasn't too hard. Favorite FM module? Probably pure. It's just fun. Uh, mechanics. I mean, okay, mechanics is sort of hard. Okay, it's just different to what you learn in physics and in A-level maths, but it's easy to apply to the questions that you do once you get the concepts, and like you have to memorize a lot. Also, another advice is that if you're learning new formulas, you should add it to a flashcard and try to memorize it so you can quickly apply it during your exams. Yes, it is. Discrete is sick. Equally in Edexcel FM is not that much of a difference, I think. Like you do FP1, which is further pure one, which is like fairly hard. It's a fairly hard further maths further maths module. But I think AQA sort of does it in the second year for pure, which is quite funny, but it's not as in depth. Yes. Actually, I think FM is probably better than physics for A level because physics degree contains a lot of maths and calculus, and physics A level covers barely any calculus, which is really surprising for like most of the A levels, in my opinion, because I do physics AQA. I just think physics AQA is just harder than further maths at the moment. Because like physics physics A level is sort of different in theory wise. You have it's not as repetitive. Yes, it is. It's not as repetitive as third maths, where some of the questions might be repeated again in different years. How much of physics is maths? Not that much, I think. Uh, Actually, there is a lot of maths. There is a lot of maths. There's just not that much calculus in it, which is quite important. There's like one subtopic that might contain a bit of calculus, but you don't need calculus, and calculus is one of the most important part of physics. Uh, I I I remember throwing away my instrument sets in the end of year 11, and since then I've never had to use it. Actually, you know what? There was got one subtopic in discrete maths which might have required it, but you didn't need it. So it's quite useless. So how are you guys feeling for year 12? You guys ready? I'm prepared. I will. In it.
Yeah, I mean, Taib, I think you've explained it quite well. The same systems apply for both further maths and maths, in my opinion. The biggest thing is to focus on the content and really understand the theory first before applying that theory. So the big thing with further maths is there are not many past papers online for specific exam boards. So what I would recommend is first using various resources. Don't just use one resource, but use multiple different resources to understand the content first. And after you have a solid understanding of the content, then start applying that using different questions. Probably leave past papers, exam board specific past papers for closer to the actual A level. Before that, if you're starting in year 12, Quester, I think, has the further maths Quest have a lot of resources for exam questions by topic. Just have a look at those. If you're struggling with exam style questions, I guess just building on from what Taib said, it is the two-step process, really. Just focus on learning the content, focus on understanding the content. If you have any problems with understanding the content, use your teachers, use the resources available to you. Because honestly, once you understand the content and once you understand why the maths works how it works, then answering the questions is, a natural follow-up to that. It's quite easy if you know exactly why it works. I mean, one thing I would recommend is to try and focus on, instead of memorizing formulas or memorizing how to solve questions, try and really gather the underlying intuition behind why things work the way they do. Because, I mean, it's the same with every subject. If you have a detailed understanding of why something works, then you'll be able to answer any question related to that topic without having to memorize some sort of formula or memorize some steps to follow. So yeah, that's it for me.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah. Those were good tips. Okay. Is there any new questions? So, is there a recorded version of this? Yes, there is. It will be on the Quester.io YouTube channel fairly soon. And let's see. So, we are planning to add more resources to the Quester.io quest. Yeah. So that's the Quester 20521. Okay. So we're planning to add way more resources for A-level further maths, and I'm planning to make a new N for Olympiads, because that's quite interesting, and I have a ton of resources for that. So expect that to come. We also have the admission tests. In here. Admission tests here, where I'm planning to add more resources too. So yeah, I think, is there any more questions? I think no. Edexcel textbooks might be good to learn the content, but it's not the only thing that you can use. You can use a ton more resources, but I think the questions in Edexcel textbooks, they are very bland compared to the exam questions. They are using very bland questions, so it's quite different to the exam questions that you might do for Edexcel. But I think that's it.
I think just to add one more thing, I think if anyone's focusing or if anyone wants to get those A-star grades in further maths, definitely consider doing exam questions from multiple different exam boards, because even though you'll only study one exam board and you will prepare for questions from the style of one exam board, if you want a solid understanding of the concepts as a whole, definitely explore different resources and different exam boards to get different types of questions on the same topic. Because at the end of the day, maths is just maths, so the same concepts will be there in every exam board, just tested in a slightly different way.
Yeah. And